we left this example where we could click on various aspects of this lower graph, this total cases graph, and have it modify this graph, this map up here. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at how to fine-tune this behavior, because there's certain aspects of it that I like and there are certain aspects of it that I don't like. So to begin with, I currently have it set up where the clicking on a county or a state in the map doesn't modify this bottom part. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add that. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to go up into this actions command. And right now I've just got the one filter defined. And what that does is when I select the date, it will modify this map up here. So right now it's called filter 1 generated. And this isn't very descriptive. So let's go ahead and modify this. So let's call this select date. And we see that what happens is when we select something on the total cases, then it will go and update information in both the total cases and the map, and it'll filter on all of those fields. So this works. So that's a more descriptive name to this action. So let's now add an action where when I select a county, it will modify information down below. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to add an action. So on this filter, which we're going to give a name so that it's a little bit more clear what's going on, this is going to be select state. And when I click on something on my map and I actually select it, so this option right here is we're going to run this action when we select something. And we're going to target our total cases event or total cases graph. And what we want to do is we want to then turn around and only display information for that particular state. Now, when I selected this, you can turn around and select either counties. So what this would do is, if I did it by county, that would only show the results for a particular county. So let's go ahead and look at how that works. And so now when I look at Coconino County, we see that what we're displaying right now is just for Coconino County. But what I'd really like is for this to be the state level information. So let's go back and edit this guy. And I don't want it to be county, I want it to be the state. All right, so right now when I click on Coconino County, now this is the number of cases entirely within Arizona. Now, right now, the tooltips here is not so great because we've got our county, we've got our state, we've got what's being displayed currently as log 10. So that's the color scheme, but I don't want the log 10. That's not helpful to anyone other than making this gradient. So what I want is actually the number of cases. So we're gonna go back to our map and we're gonna look at this tooltip right here. And right now, you can see that our tooltip is showing our county, our state, and our log 10 number. So we want to modify that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this number and we're going to just drag it on top of this tooltip. And now when I click on this, you can see, oh, here's our county, state, and here's the number as the sum of this column. That sum doesn't really matter all that much because when we end up selecting our date, there'll be just one number in the selected county. So, but when we turn around and look at the state level information, maybe we'll want some summing. So I like that. Now the other thing that I would like to have in here is the date. So let's go ahead and add the date onto our tooltip as well. And now we see we've got our county, state, date. Now notice that I can't just put the column that is called date. We have to use this attribute thing, which sort of turns our date into a nicely formatted version of it. So I'm going to modify this tooltip a little bit. I'm going to get rid of the average number. I'm going to move county and state onto sort of their own line. And we don't need to have this little information that. So we've got county, state, on, and then we have the date. I'm going to say cases equals that and click OK. So I like this. Now when I click on an individual state, it'll say Coconino, Arizona on April 5th, 238 cases. All right. So I like this. Now, the reason why I moved over here was to recognize that I can do county, state as column names. I can get my date using this attribute. And I can use that for titles all over the place. So right now, this map information, right, as a title, that's not so great. So let's rename this. Let's call this, instead of the sheet name, which is map, let's call this distribution of COVID-19 cases on. And now I can do this attribute bit and get what I want. Cool. So now we have distribution of COVID-19 cases on, and then we give it the date. So that's really cool now. So I like my hover text. I like my title. Let's go ahead and look here. And now I'm going to modify this graph as well, the title for this one. And I'm going to say, I'm going to call this number of cases in, and then give the state. And right now, we haven't selected any states yet. And so it's defaulting to all states, which isn't ideal, but it'll work out. So now we've got a way of looking at the individual counties. So the hover text will give me the individual county information. And down below is the total number of cases in that particular state. As I look at my action here, I'm looking at the number of cases in Arizona, but right now only Coconino County is highlighted. So maybe what I'd like to do is when I click on a county, I'd like to keep the entire rest of the state highlighted. So let's go ahead and add one more action. So I'm going to go up to my actions. I'm going to add an action. I'm going to add a highlight. And what we're going to do is when I click on my map, when I select something, I'm going to also target my map. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight only on selected fields. So I'm going to highlight any object that has the same state attribute as whatever thing that I clicked on. We're going to add this, and I'm going to call this highlight entire state. Click OK, click OK. And now when I click on a county, we keep the entire state highlighted. And so this happily gives us the shape of it. And so you can now see the total number of cases in Montana and now we go down to Gallatin County. This is where Bozeman, Montana is. And you can see the total number of cases that are in Montana. So that's really nice. So I hope that gives you some sense of how to modify the graphics so that in a dashboard you can have one modify another and vice versa.